What happens if you pour milk into your tomato plant? You've probably seen the viral videos. Someone takes a glass of leftover milk, walks over to their garden, and dumps it right at the base of a struggling tomato vine. It looks crazy. It looks like a waste of good food. But then, weeks later, those same plants are loaded with fruit, glowing green and seemingly immune to disease. Is this real gardening wisdom or just internet nonsense? Today, we're going to find out exactly what happens when dairy meets dirt, and whether this kitchen staple is the secret weapon your tomato garden has been missing. Before we dive into the science and the soil, do me a quick favor. If you want to grow bigger, healthier vegetables without spending a fortune on chemical fertilizers, hit that subscribe button. I break down practical, proven gardening techniques every single week, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Let's get growing. To understand why milk might work for your tomatoes, we first need to look at what is actually inside that white liquid. When we talk about using milk in the garden, we are almost always talking about cow's milk, though goat or sheep milk can work similarly. At its core, milk is an emulsion of fat, protein, and sugar suspended in water. But for a plant, the water is just the delivery vehicle. The magic lies in the solids. The most significant component for plant health is calcium. Milk is incredibly rich in calcium, which is bound up in casein proteins and also present as free ions. Calcium is a structural nutrient. In plants, it acts like the cement in a building. It strengthens cell walls, helping the plant stand upright and resist physical stress. Without enough calcium, plant cells become weak and fragile. Next, we have proteins. Milk contains casein and whey proteins. These are long chains of amino acids. When milk hits the soil, bacteria and fungi begin to break these proteins down. This decomposition process releases nitrogen. Nitrogen is the fuel for green growth. It is the primary driver behind leaf development and photosynthesis. However, because this nitrogen is locked inside complex proteins, it is not immediately available to the plant. It must be mineralized by soil microbes first. This makes milk a slow-release nitrogen source, rather than a quick fix like synthetic urea. Milk also contains phosphorus and potassium, though in smaller amounts compared to calcium. Phosphorus is vital for root development and energy transfer within the plant, while potassium helps with water regulation and overall plant vigor. Additionally, milk contains trace amounts of magnesium, zinc, and vitamins like B12 and riboflavin. While plants don't need vitamins in the same way humans do, these organic compounds can stimulate microbial activity in the soil. Perhaps the most unique aspect of milk is its sugar content, lactose. Lactose is a disaccharide, meaning it is a complex sugar. Most plants cannot directly absorb lactose. However, the microorganisms in your soil love it. Lactose serves as a high-energy food source for beneficial bacteria and fungi. By feeding these microbes, you are essentially boosting the biological activity of your soil. A biologically active soil is a healthy soil. It cycles nutrients more efficiently and suppresses harmful pathogens. It is also important to note the pH of milk. Fresh milk is slightly acidic, usually around a pH of 6.5 to 6.7. This is close to neutral. However, as milk begins to sour or ferment, lactic acid bacteria convert the lactose into lactic acid, dropping the pH significantly. This acidity can have a profound effect on the soil environment and the availability of certain nutrients. So, when you pour milk on your plants, you are not just adding nutrients, you are introducing a complex biological cocktail that changes the chemistry and biology of the rhizosphere, the zone of soil surrounding the plant roots. Now that we know what is in the milk, let's look at what the tomato plant actually needs. Tomatoes are heavy feeders. They are not delicate flowers. They are vigorous, fast-growing vines that produce a large amount of biomass and fruit in a short period. To do this, they require a specific balance of macronutrients and micronutrients. The primary nutrient tomato plants crave is nitrogen, especially during the early vegetative stage. This is when the plant is building its stem and leaves. Nitrogen gives tomatoes their deep green color and drives rapid growth. However, there is a catch. If you give a tomato plant too much nitrogen late in the season, it will produce lush, beautiful foliage, but very few fruits. The plant becomes lazy. It focuses on growing leaves instead of making babies. This is why the slow-release nature of the nitrogen in milk is actually an advantage. It provides a steady drip of nitrogen without causing the explosive, unbalanced growth that synthetic fertilizers often trigger. But the nutrient that defines a successful tomato harvest is calcium. You may have heard of blossom end rot. This is a common disorder where the bottom of the tomato fruit turns black, leathery, and rots away. It ruins the fruit and breaks the heart of many gardeners. Blossom end rot is primarily caused by a calcium deficiency in the developing fruit. It doesn't always mean there is no calcium in the soil. Often, it means the plant cannot uptake the calcium fast enough due to inconsistent watering or poor root health. Since milk is packed with bioavailable calcium, it directly addresses this critical need. By supplying calcium through milk, you are strengthening the cell walls of the fruit itself, making it less prone to cracking and rotting. Tomatoes also need phosphorus for strong root systems. A weak root system cannot support a heavy vine laden with wet, juicy fruit. Phosphorus encourages deep rooting, which helps the plant access water during dry spells. The phosphorus in milk, while not as concentrated as in bone meal, contributes to this foundational strength. Furthermore, tomatoes are susceptible to a variety of fungal diseases, such as powdery mildew, early blight, and septoria leaf spot. These diseases thrive in humid conditions and attack weakened plants. Here, the connection between milk's composition and the plant's needs becomes fascinating. The proteins in milk, when sprayed on leaves or applied to the soil, can act as a natural fungicide. Studies have shown that the enzymes and microbes activated by milk can suppress fungal spores. So, the tomato plant needs protection just as much as it needs food. Milk offers a dual benefit: nutrition and defense. However, we must be realistic. Milk is not a complete fertilizer. It lacks the high concentrations of potassium that tomatoes need for fruit ripening and sugar production. It also does not provide all the micronutrients, like iron or manganese, in sufficient quantities. Therefore, milk should be viewed as a supplement, a booster, or a corrective treatment, not the sole source of nutrition for your tomato crop. It fills specific gaps, particularly calcium and slow-release nitrogen, while supporting the soil biology that makes other nutrients available. So what are the real benefits of using milk correctly? When applied properly, milk can lead to darker green leaves, stronger stems that require less staking, and a significant reduction in blossom end rot. Many gardeners report fewer issues with fungal diseases on the lower leaves. The soil around the plant becomes more vibrant, with increased earthworm activity and better structure due to the boost in microbial life. It is an inexpensive, organic way to recycle a household product into garden gold. But here is the warning, and you need to listen closely. If you use milk incorrectly, you can kill your plants. I am not exaggerating. Pouring full-strength, fresh milk directly onto the soil or leaves is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because milk is an organic substance that rots. If you dump a cup of whole milk at the base of a tomato plant, it will create a thick, smelly layer on top of the soil. This layer blocks air from reaching the roots. Roots need oxygen. If they suffocate, the plant dies. Furthermore, as that thick layer of milk decomposes, it generates heat. This heat can literally burn the tender roots of your tomato plant. It also attracts pests. Flies, ants, and rodents are drawn to the scent of spoiling dairy. You do not want a swarm of flies around your dinner-to-be. There is also the risk of pathogenic bacteria. While we hope for beneficial microbes, raw milk or improperly handled milk can introduce harmful bacteria like E. coli or salmonella into your garden. If these bacteria splash onto the fruit, they pose a serious health risk to you and your family. This is why hygiene and proper dilution are non-negotiable. Another major risk is mold. If you spray undiluted milk on the leaves, especially in humid weather, it can encourage the growth of unwanted molds and sooty fungus. Instead of preventing disease, you might be creating a new problem. The key is balance. Milk must be treated like a potent medicine, not a beverage. Too much kills, the right amount heals. Now, let's get into the exact method. Do not just grab the carton and pour. Follow these steps for safe and effective application. Step 1. Choose your milk. You can use fresh milk that is nearing its expiration date, or you can use sour milk. In fact, slightly sour milk is often better because the fermentation process has already begun breaking down some of the complex sugars and proteins, making them easier for soil microbes to process. Avoid ultra-pasteurized milk if possible, as the high heat treatment can denature some of the beneficial enzymes, though it will still provide calcium. Skim milk or low-fat milk is preferred over whole milk because the lower fat content reduces the risk of rancidity and pest attraction. Step 2. Dilution is critical. Never use milk straight. The standard recommended ratio is 1 part milk to 9 parts water. That is a 1:10 dilution. For example, mix 1 cup of milk with 9 cups of water. If you are dealing with very young seedlings or sensitive plants, you can go even weaker to a 1:20 ratio. Use a clean bucket or watering can to mix this thoroughly. Stir well to ensure the milk is evenly distributed in the water. Step 3. Application method. There are 2 ways to apply this mixture. The first is as a soil drench. Pour the diluted mixture slowly around the base of the tomato plant, aiming for the drip line, the area where the outermost leaves reach. Avoid pouring it directly against the main stem, as this can cause stem rot. Apply enough to moisten the soil, but do not saturate it to the point of runoff. You want the nutrients to seep down to the root zone. The second method is as a foliar spray. This is particularly effective for preventing fungal diseases like powdery mildew. Pour your diluted mixture into a clean spray bottle. Spray the leaves thoroughly, covering both the top and the underside. The underside of the leaf is where fungal spores often hide. Do this in the early morning so the leaves have time to dry out during the day. Wet leaves overnight can invite disease. Step 4. Clean up. If any milk spills on the patio or walkway, wash it away immediately with water. Do not let it sit and sour on hard surfaces. Wash your hands and any tools used with hot soapy water to prevent bacterial contamination. Timing is everything in gardening, and it is especially crucial when using organic amendments like milk. There are specific times when you should absolutely not use milk on your tomatoes. First, do not use milk during extreme heat waves. If temperatures are above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius, the soil is already stressed. Adding organic matter that decomposes and generates heat can cook the roots. Wait for cooler weather. Second, avoid using milk on waterlogged soil. If it has been raining for days and your soil is soggy, do not add more moisture. The lack of oxygen in saturated soil, combined with the decomposition of milk, can create anaerobic conditions, leading to root rot and foul smells. Wait until the soil has dried out slightly. Third, do not use milk on very young seedlings that have just been transplanted. Their root systems are too fragile and shocked from the move. Let them establish themselves for at least 2 to 3 weeks before introducing any supplemental treatments. Fourth, avoid spraying milk on the leaves in the evening or at night. As mentioned, leaves need to dry out. Moisture sitting on leaves overnight is an invitation for blight and mildew, the very things you are trying to prevent. So, when is the ideal time to use milk? The best time is during the early to mid-vegetative stage, when the plant is establishing its structure, but before it starts setting heavy fruit. This is when the demand for calcium and nitrogen is high for structural growth. Another ideal time is at the first sign of fungal stress, such as small yellow spots on lower leaves. A foliar spray can help halt the spread. Weather-wise, choose a cool, cloudy morning. This allows the leaves to absorb the spray without the risk of sunburn, which can happen if water droplets act as magnifying glasses under intense sun. The soil should be moderately moist, not bone dry and not soaking wet. How often should you reapply? Less is more. Do not use milk every week. A good schedule is once every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season. Overuse can lead to an imbalance in soil pH and nutrient lockout. Monitor your plants. If they look healthy and vigorous, you may not need to apply it at all. Use it as a preventive measure or a corrective treatment, not a routine habit. For soil drenches, 3 to 4 applications per season are usually sufficient. For foliar sprays for disease prevention, you can apply every 2 weeks during humid periods. If you follow these rules, when will you see results? Gardening is a game of patience, and milk is not a miracle instant grow potion. You will not see a difference overnight. For soil drenches aimed at improving plant vigor and calcium uptake, expect to see subtle changes within 2 to 3 weeks. The leaves may appear a deeper, richer green. The stems may feel firmer to the touch. You won't necessarily see new growth exploding, but the existing plant will look more robust. The real test comes when the fruit sets. If you were previously struggling with blossom end rot, you should see a marked improvement in the next set of fruits. They will be smoother, firmer, and free of the black, rotten bottoms. This confirms that the calcium is being effectively transported to the fruit. For foliar sprays aimed at disease control, the results can be faster. If you catch powdery mildew early, you may see the white patches stop spreading within 3 to 5 days. Existing spots may not disappear completely, but new growth will remain clean and healthy. The plant will look cleaner and brighter. Remember, the goal is not just visible change, but resilience. A plant treated with diluted milk is often better equipped to handle stress from heat, drought, or minor pest attacks. It is about building a stronger foundation from the roots up. Using milk on your tomato plants is a perfect example of working with nature, not against it. It recycles a common household item, reduces waste, and provides essential nutrients in a form that supports the entire soil ecosystem. It is not magic, but it is smart, sustainable gardening. I hope this guide gives you the confidence to try this method in your own garden. Start small, dilute properly, and watch your tomatoes thrive. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tip on how to grow your best harvest yet. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever tried using milk in your garden? Did it work or did it go wrong? I read every comment. Thanks for watching and happy gardening.